this is the proverbial home run choice to put in the broadcast chair at Bally Sports Midwest. Now, Chip, did I do good there?
Holy cow, Bernie, where do I send the check?
I meant every word.
You are way too kind. Look, I'm thrilled, I'm humbled, I'm honored, and I'm really, really grateful not only to come to the Cardinal booth. I mean, look, anybody who does jobs like we do understands the magnitude of the job, and as you said, what Cardinals baseball means to so many people in so many different places. And just to be uttered in the same paragraph, much less the same chapter as folks like Jack Buck or Joe Garagiola or Harry Carey, and yes, Danny McLaughlin, is an incredible compliment, and I'm beyond thrilled and excited. My family and I can't wait to get started. And again, thank you for such a nice, warm welcome.
You've had such an interesting career, to say the least, and in no way, shape, or form am I diminishing, your grandfather or your dad. May they both rest in peace. And I knew them both and thought very highly of them. But I think Joe Buck said this. You have been doing this for such a long time that people don't necessarily think about your grandfather or your dad when you're doing your work. They just appreciate you for who you are. And I know, obviously, they also appreciate the baseball background with your granddad and with your father.
Sure.
But you've done well without that Carey name, is what I'm trying to say. And I don't mean that in any negative way. It's a positive.
No, I know what you mean. Yeah, no, I think I know what you mean. Look, Joe Buck said this ad nauseum. I've said it ad nauseum. Tommy Brenneman, Kenny Albert. Look, we stand on the shoulders of giants, right? I mean, that's just the way it is. There are many people in many other industries whose fathers own law firms or plumbing companies or bakeries or are medical practices whose sons or daughters follow in their footsteps, right? And those children take over and hopefully carry the torch proudly forward. That's all we've tried to do. It just happens to be in an industry that people love talking about because they're so passionate about it. And look, we get a front row seat to watch, these guys do their thing on a nightly basis, and there's no heavy lifting. That said, you're right. My grandfather's been gone almost 25 years. My dad's been gone 14 years, and I've been able to, as has Joe, to forge my own way in a business that's determinant on your own personality. Joe doesn't go out and try to be Jack Buck. Who could be? I'm not going to make that mistake and try to be Harry Carey or Skip Carey for that matter. I've got to go out and be who I am. And look, there's going to be a segment of the population who, no matter what I do, they're going to love me. And there's going to be a group of people that are going to hate me. I get it. That's the nature of the business. But one thing I promise you is you're going to get me. It's authentic, and that's who I am. And I think that's why, to your point, I've been able to do this now for 30-some-odd years because, love me or hate me, I'm Chip. I'm not Harry's grandson. I'm not Skip Carey's son. I'm Chip, and I hope to get to know you and hope I'll be as comfortable as an old worn baseball glove over the years as we start this journey together.
Well, I was just so happy when I heard the news, and it's not like you and I have seen each other all that much, but especially when I was working for the Post-Dispatch STL today, I was down at the ballpark a lot, and you and I had a chance to, just hang out at the ballpark a little bit. I remember one time you were very, very kind to come out to the previous station I worked at and do the show with me, where you didn't have to do that the day of a game. I mean, but that's – I tell that story because I just want our listeners to know how kind you are and how considerate you are and how gracious you are. And, I don't know how to rank put together a list of ranking the nicest guys doing the job that you do, but you're very high on the list, my friend.
Well, again, that's another check. I'm going to run out, I think, before this interview is over. But that's very nice. Look, at the end of the day, it doesn't cost you anything to be nice. It doesn't. We work in a business where there's a lot of pressure, quite obviously. There's a lot of attention, quite obviously. And we are the ones, we being the guys and gals with the headsets and microphones, who are the ones that are on top of the high wire, right? Our job is to showcase the amazing talents of the men and women in a TV truck who work so hard and so diligently to provide the pictures and sounds and storylines for a game. When things go well, it's all because of them. If things go poorly, our job is to deflect that criticism and take it for them and help protect them so that they can do the best job they can. We work in live TV. Stuff happens, good, bad, or otherwise. that's the nature of the beast. And nobody, Bernie, nobody goes to work trying to goof up. It happens. It's live TV. And so you just follow the old Dutch saying, pedal your bike straight through and keep going until you get to the finish line and do the best you possibly can. And fortunately, my crew in Atlanta and I developed just an amazing rapport. They're not coworkers, they're family. They're dear friends. And for me personally, that's maybe the most difficult part of this transition is leaving them behind, because for 20 years you get to see the babies born, you get to see the marriages, and you get to see the next stages in their personal and professional lives, and not to be a part of that every day after investing so much time in that, which is so much more important than the outcome of a game, is hard. But I'm eager to start those new relationships and build them with Tom, me, and the crew at Bally Midwest. They're tremendous people, and they've been so welcoming. I'm just shocked and flattered and humbled to be landing on my feet in such a terrific place.
It's going to be awesome because I'm very good friends, as you know, with Dan McLaughlin, and he loved his crew. He still loves his crew, obviously, and they're legendaries. I mean, so yeah, this is going to be a great partnership, a great relationship with you guys. So I'm looking forward to it. Hey, one of the great things about this, and our guest is Chip Caray, the new voice of the Cardinals on Bally Sports Midwest. You know, you're coming home, as we all know, but your mom's still lives here. You have other relatives who live here. Can you tell us what your mom's reaction, or maybe some other family members in this community, their reaction when, you know, it looked like this was going to happen and then it finally happened? You got the gig. I can't imagine their emotions about this.
Yeah, the phone was melting. Bernie, Cardinal people get it, okay? I've used this line a million times, so for fans who've heard it before, I apologize, but I'm of an era where you knew the 64 Cardinals lineup more than you knew the ABCs. That's just how it went. 32 years ago, Tom Barton of Bud Sports came to Orlando when I was doing the Orlando Magic games and asked me if I'd like to be the voice of the St. Louis Cardinals. 32 years ago. I couldn't take the job for myriad reasons, and there was always a tinge of regret for that, but I needed to go and do some other things so soon after leaving St. Louis. And I never imagined that this opportunity would come about. And I must say, because it is the elephant in the room, as overjoyed as I am at this opportunity for myself, I'm just saddened by the circumstances under which it happened. Danny is a tremendous broadcaster. He's a tremendous person. He did a ton for the community. He was a fantastic ambassador for the Cardinals, and he's a dear friend. He's a brother to me, and I know he's going to be okay, and our sport and our industry needs guys like Danny Mac behind the microphone again, and I hope that happens sooner rather than later. And I hope Cardinal fans will welcome him back to the ballpark when he decides to come, because I think that would be a very, very fitting thing to have happen. But that said, Bernie, my family's excited. They're deliriously happy for this to come full circle for me personally and professionally, and for our family. You know, my grandfather was there in 1945, for goodness sakes. It's the stuff dreams are made of, and I'm beyond humbled and blessed for this chance to make it happen.
You got enough time to put everything together? I mean, spring training's 2 weeks away, so this is going to be kind of run and gun. You're on a pitch clock, I guess. You're on a pitch clock, I guess, is the way to put it. But no, how exciting is this though, too? And did you ever think that this would happen? I mean, you were very happy, as you've talked about. You loved your job in Atlanta. You love the people you work with. The Braves are a great franchise. But was there ever a time when you're just that quiet time we all have and we reflect on things and maybe make our little wishes to ourselves? Did you ever think that this would happen? And was it something that, you may have realized that, well, I'm 57 and Dan McLaughlin's a young guy or whatever, that job's well taken care of, so it probably may not happen. But did you ever think about at least the possibility that for some reason you would end up back in St. Louis?
Well, yeah, I mean, Dan and I talked about it. We would have liked to have worked together, and who knows, maybe someday that'll happen, because we both are St. Louis guys. We're both kind of self-made guys. We both have done it our way. We both understand the history of the town and the franchise and the like. There's so many similarities there. But yeah, when you see a place like St. Louis, and that booth in particular, in such great hands, not just with Dan, but with Brad and with Al for so many years, and Tim McCarver and Jimmy Edmonds. I mean, how could you ever think that there'd be a possibility for anything like that to happen. But, you always wonder, what's it like? It's human nature. What's it like on the other side of the fence, right? What's it like to call games for the Yankees, or what's it like to call games for the Marlins? You don't know until you find out. And so, no, I never thought that it would be possible. As I said before, I'm really eager about the chance, and humbled and privileged and delighted and just overwhelmed by the graciousness of the DeWitt family and Bally Sports Midwest. It's the Cardinals. Right? And you're right. The Braves are a gold standard organization, too. They treated me and my family tremendously for 46 years. But when the Cardinals call, you have to listen, especially if you're from St. Louis like I am. And I'm grateful they did. I'm glad I listened, and I'm glad things worked out the way they have for me and my family, Bernie.
Chip, I want to ask you one other thing. Chip Caray, the new voice of the Cardinals on Bally Sports Midwest. When you've covered or you've called baseball in all kinds of settings, nationally, local, you name it, the Cubs, the Braves. But I wanted to ask you this. Is there something about the Cardinals and the franchise and the history of the franchise and just the deep-rooted fan passion? Is there something about calling Cardinals games, would you anticipate calling Cardinals games that's different than calling other games? I mean, is there something about it where, your style, you recognize, like, maybe there's some different responsibilities. Maybe there is another aspect of this that makes it different. I hope the question makes sense. I think you know what I mean.
I do. I think those who sit in our chairs have an obligation. Look, I want every game that the Cardinals play to win. There's no doubt about that. I'm going to be, their biggest fan. That said, we have an obligation to sell not just the Cardinals, but baseball itself. And as a child, I was taught, when you see a player make a great play, even if he's on the other team, acknowledge that, right? I mean, that's what St. Louis fans are known for. When you come into that town, first of all, you're going to have 45,000 screaming baseball savants yelling for their team. They're going to be knowledgeable. They know what a good play is. They appreciate what good baseball play is. They understand how hard it is to play. And when you see that on a nightly basis, it really frees you up to not just talk about how things are going for your team, but to sell and celebrate the joy of our game. It's not like it was when my grandfather was doing baseball and a player was on a team for his entire career, with free agency, with player movement, with trades, and all of that. There's so much more player movement now. Your opponent today may be your teammate tomorrow. And if you can tell that player's story, it's going to make that transition for that player to your franchise, I think, a whole lot easier for all of us, because baseball, as we know, Bernie, is in the economic fight for its life. Anything we can do to tell the stories and sell the stories of these amazing athletes is, I think, our primary job. And it's something I've always enjoyed doing in Atlanta, where we've been blessed with terrific players and terrific stories. And being able to spread my wings a little bit and talk about not just the Cardinals, but about the game in general is going to be a lot of fun. And I'm really going to be counting on Brad and Jim to help guide me through that as I learn a new culture on the fly, because make no doubt about it, it's still baseball, but Cardinal baseball is just a little bit different.
That's right. And you will immediately that's one advantage you have. You'll immediately, when you come in, you're so well-informed on Cardinals history for many reasons. Being a fan growing up, given the fact that, again, the family legacy, calling games in St. Louis, but just understanding how special that relationship is between the Cardinals and the fans, and even the young fans. The young fans
right.
love to hear about Cardinals history. It really is interesting that way, and you can immediately establish that connection.
And that's different, Bernie, than a lot of places. Look, talking about baseball and its demographics, everybody's after the 18 to 34-year-old fan. Fans don't care about Bob Gibson. They don't care about Steve Carlton or Rick Wise or Ken Reitz or Gary Templeton or Ozzie Smith. Hogwash, I say. What good does it do to talk about the great exploits of Paul Goldschmidt and Nolan Arenado if you don't compare them to Ken Reitz and, say, Keith Hernandez, and put it into some sort of context? Because, generationally speaking, that's how our game survives. Someone's going to always argue, well, Jack Flaherty, he's just as good as Bob Gibson. Well, here are the numbers that say that's right or not, and you have a great discussion about it. You talk about it. That's what makes baseball fun, and you can't ignore your history. You can't. You can't just move on and talk about today's players, because, in my opinion, to do so shortchanges the great history of your franchise. And I always say we stand on the shoulders of giants. Today's players do the same with the men who preceded them in the Cardinals colors, and I hope to be able to celebrate and do their legacies proud as we put today's players and today's play into context in a historical way.
Well, you're going to be great because you already are, but even greater now because you get to come home and this job's so meaningful to you. So happy for you. Welcome home on behalf of our listening audience. And we'll chat from time to time. But seriously, thank you very much for coming on.
My pleasure, and to heck with the Cubs. Does that help?
What a perfect way to close it out. That's right. Thank you so much. All right. Take care. That's our friend Chip Caray. What a nice man. You know, his two sons are broadcasters too. You know, they're paying their dues. They're working, you know, doing minor league ball and hungry to broadcast and working for it rather than, you know what I mean, using the name to just kind of, you know, ride on cruise control or whatever. I think I didn't ask him about his two sons because I wanted to talk about him, but his two sons are, you know, I also think that's a wonderful story. You talk about something running in the family. So I think Cardinals fans are really like Chip. He understands what baseball means to this town. And like I said earlier, Cardinals fans everywhere, not just in St. Louis and in the Metro East, regional franchise. You see when you watch Cardinals games anywhere in the country, Cardinals fans are there. They're very visible. They're very passionate, and the enthusiasm is really, really wonderful. So Chip gets all this, and that's why he was such a great choice to succeed Dan McLaughlin, and it's in good hands. So, Jim, any reaction?
I'm ready for baseball. Can we have a game tomorrow?
Yeah, but I hope. I wish, man.
All good stuff. He said all the right things. Even Texter said, "Wow, class act, handling things well." Looking forward to having him come into our living rooms every night. That's becomes part of our culture here in St. Louis. I didn't realize that, Bernie, until I ran the radio network one year, the first year, and I was like, "Holy cow, this is a lot bigger than I thought." And I grew up listening to it, right? But until I became on the media side of it and saw it on a nightly basis, you don't really get that part until you're in there. And Chip gets it. And I said this when we first heard the news, and you pointed this out because I said, I don't know Chip. But when you said he will understand what the job means, he will want to be part of this, not just this isn't a stepping point to get to somewhere else. He'll recognize all that. Just hearing him talk about it, how can you not be excited for what's coming up?
You know, this is a guy who was, I don't want to overstate it, but he was set for life in Atlanta. Mm-hmm. You know, they were never going to, you know, as long as he was able to do the job, like physically and mentally and all that, they were, no one was going to say, well, we got to make a change there. He was an institution in his own right in Atlanta. And, you know, he and his wife raised a family there. And, you know, it would have been really easy for him to just kind of already, continue to ride the success and the credibility that he had established, you know, 20 years in that market. Like, he didn't need to do this, you know, and, but the fact that it was such an easy decision for him, and it's something that just really has obviously fired him up, and he can't wait to get started. I mean, that tells you all you need to know about his commitment to his hometown and what it means. It's not just a job; it's a higher calling, and that's why I was so excited when. It's no disrespect to any other candidates, but I was really fired up by what that decision was, because and it's just a great time in his life as well. And, you know, he's got relatives here, including his mom. And, you know, to be 57 years old and you get to come home and your mom's still with us, and, you know, you get to see her probably, I'm assuming, more than you've had the opportunity to see her, because now you're going to be living here. I mean, I know he's got some aunts and I don't know all the ages of everybody, but this is like a really, really, really good time for him to come home. And I know his and I should have asked him this. I know he has the 2 sons. I don't know if there's any other family members. Shame on me for not knowing that in terms of kids. But, you know, they're all grown up and they're all pursuing their own lives. And so you're not pulling them out of schools, and it's tough for young kids to move sometimes. You know, Chip went through that himself, you know. And so, again, the time is absolutely right. And I know some people hate me saying this, but I'm not going to be a phony. I really appreciate what he had to say about Dan McLaughlin, and I'm sure some people cringe because that's what we do. And Dan put himself in a bad situation by his own decisions that went wrong. But and he knows that. He doesn't need to be told that. But very classy of what Chip said about Danny Mac. So, and I know for Danny Mac's friends, it means a lot that he you know just is not reluctant in any way, shape, or form to declare those feelings on live radio. You know, it says, "Oh, I better not say anything." No, he's a genuine guy. He's authentic. So I appreciate that, and that's a small thing, but I just wanted to take note of that. So you can blast me away on Twitter. I don't care. It's fine. It's all fine.